Hi guys, this video is to talk about developing a topic outline for your research project. So I'm going to share my screen here and we're going to look at some example topic outlines. So the first step in creating your research project is to decide on a topic, and not only to just generally decide on a topic, but also to identify some subtopics within that topic and then to organize them into a topic outline. So sitting down to write a big research report can be sort of overwhelming. As we all know from doing Google searches, there's just an enormous amount of information that's out there in the world about any kind of topic these days. And so being able to really identify what information we're looking for, rather than just only identifying a broad topic, is really key to our success in developing our research paper. So you guys have a lot of flexibility to choose a topic that's of interest to you. I really want it to be something that comes from you, not something that I assign to you. And some students will choose bigger topics, broader topics, and some students may choose narrower topics. I will guide you away from choosing topics that are too big, like volcanoes or plate tectonics. That's just too big of a topic to try to do a good job on. And I'll also caution you away from picking topics that are just too narrow, so that there's probably not a lot of information out there about them. Something like quartz deposits on the FRC campus. There's just like not really any documentation about that. And so that may be something that's of interest to you, but I will encourage you to be a little bit broader than that. But anyway, as you pick a topic that's not way too broad or way too narrow, as I said, you'll want to take the next step and you'll want to start to do some reading about your topic online. And that will be taking advantage of sites like Wikipedia and reading Wikipedia pages about your sites. And that will be taking advantage of reading through some other basic websites that address your page or your topic. Things like USGS, United States Geologic Survey, will have a lot of geologic information about different topics. Other universities will have interesting information posted about different topics. There would be some general books about different topics that would work well for you. And as you do some general reading about your topic, before you get into really collecting very specific details that you might want to include in your paper, you just really want to get into the point where you're organizing your thinking about your topic, and so that you know how you're going to approach it. So for example, I have two different papers here that students could write. So this first example is from a paper that I actually wrote in grad school. The second example is a paper that I kind of almost wrote to show students the process of doing this about the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii. And in each case, after I did a little bit of introductory reading about these topics, I was able to break them down into somewhere between 4 to 7 kind of subtopic categories. And so my first topic is something that is going to be on the more specific side of something that you should pick. In this case, I wrote a paper about changes in weathering, which is kind of the breakdown in rock and erosion on Santa Cruz Island, which is one of the Channel Islands, with the introduction of non-native grazers. So a bunch of sheep in particular were brought to that island. And this paper was thinking about how did that lead to changes in the erosion and soil movement on the island. So that's probably a more specific topic than you would pick, but that is related to geology. And then you'll see, instead of trying to sit down and just tackle that topic in its entirety, I did a little bit of reading, and then I organized my thinking so that I said, well, in order to really understand this topic, first of all, I need to know some basic characteristics about soil. I need to know some basic characteristics about weathering of soil. I need to know some basic characteristics about climate, because climate is very important in weathering and transportation of sediments. I need to know the impact of climate on the weathering and transportation of these sediments. I need to know what the erosion processes were like before Europeans showed up with these different grazing animals. I need to know about the animals that came, how many, Where were they? Then, only then, after I have all that background done, am I going to get into really addressing the question of my top paper, which is, now that I understand all that background, what actually was the effect of non-native grazers on the erosion? So I'm not really getting to the main point until I've done all this background. And this is really helpful because now when I sit down to look for sources and do research and organize my notes, and then ultimately when I sit down to write, instead of just sitting down to write a 20-page paper, which is what I was doing in this case, I now have 7 different subtopics, and I'm just writing like a 1 or 2-page paper about each of these subtopics, and then I'm working to link them together. And that can be much less overwhelming than just trying to tackle the topic all at once. So another example down at the bottom of the slide here is something that's probably a little bit more similar to the kind of topic that you might pick out for our geology course. And in this case, this is a topic about the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii. So in this case, I'm not attempting to answer a specific question about Kilauea. You could if you wanted to, but in this case, just kind of generally doing some background reporting on the volcano itself. And as I did a little bit of research about Kilauea, and I know a little bit about geology, I started to kind of break down this topic into some different subtopics that, again, now I can research independently and I can write about independently. And so now I can work on writing a bunch of couple paragraph or page reports on each of these topics, and then kind of string them together to make my longer 5 to 6 page research paper, which again may be less intimidating than just trying to sit down and write 6 pages all at once. And ultimately, I should get a much more coherent and more organized paper if I'm approaching it in this way. So in this particular case, I said, well, first I'm just going to address what Kilauea is if people haven't really heard of it before. And then I'm going to back up and I'm going to talk about the most general kind of introduction to this topic first. So Kilauea happens to be a hotspot volcano, so I'm going to explain about what a hotspot volcano is generally. Then I'm going to talk about the Hawaiian Islands more generally, this effect on climate and weathering I should take out. Then I'm going to talk about the Big Island of Hawaii, which is the island where Kilauea exists. Then, once I've given it all that background, which has important information about Kilauea, then I'll start to talk about how that particular volcano formed. Then I can talk about that current volcanic activity. Then I can talk about future volcanic activity. So in general, as you're trying to pick and line up your topics, you want to think about, 1, chronological order. So if you have things that are occurring throughout time, like historical volcanic eruptions, and then current volcanic eruptions, and then future volcanic eruptions, in most people's mind, addressing those chronologically with the earliest things first, and then the current things next, and then the future thing after, is going to make most sense to most people and probably going to make most sense to you as well. So ordering things chronologically is a really good way to go. And then secondly, addressing things where you have kind of broader, more introductory topics first, and then kind of narrowing things down into a funnel where you're getting to more and more and more specific information later on. That is also a good way to organize information. So you're going to be probably having some chronologic information and some kind of broad to narrow funneling of information. And those are the 2 things that you want to keep in mind as you organize your topics, and also as you organize your information within your paper and within your paragraphs. So that's how you want to get started. And if you read through things like a Wikipedia page about your topic, for example. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Oh, I'm on Zoom. Can I? Okay, so here's the Kilauea volcano page that's published by Wikipedia. As we start to organize sources for our paper, Wikipedia is open source and is therefore not considered a qualified source in most academic settings. So you can't use this as one of your sources to officially kind of cite in your paper, but it's a great place to go to start to kind of get a good background, a good overview of the topic. I read Wikipedia pages multiple times a day. And as you start to scroll through Wikipedia pages, you'll notice that they usually have some sort of contents, and the contents is sort of like a topic outline. This is the way that the Wikipedia page has decided to organize their topics that they address. And so this might be a good way for you to organize your topics as well. Or if you looked on a different website, like just like the Kilauea USGS website, they probably are going to have topics on that website organized as well. And you can kind of think about how they have decided to organize information. So they have information, just general updates about the volcano, some geology and history, etc. So different websites are going to organize their thinking different ways. There's not one right or wrong way to choose and organize your topics, but it is important to have this framework to help you research, organize your thinking, and ultimately organize your writing. So this is what you're going to work on this week. And then I just want to share my original screen one more time and emphasize that what I'm looking for in a topic outline is not a big outline of all the information that's in your paper. It's literally just a list of the topics in order. So it might be as small as like 5 lines with like 1 or 2 words on each line that list the topic and then list bulleted different topics in a particular order. So it's going to be like smaller than a paragraph. I'm not looking for extensive writing, just looking for an outline of topics only. Okay,